Welcome to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch and would like to purchase it at the lowest price anywhere online, click on the link in the description below to buy it at JazzTime.com. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Patek Philippe Calatrava Pilot Travel Time Chronograph in white gold with a green dial, reference 5924G-010. I'll talk to you a little bit about the history of the Calatrava, then tell you about where this watch stands in the lineup of other similar Calatravas. Then I'll tell you about the case bezel dial bracelet movement, finally try it on and give you my thoughts. So let's start with the history of the Calatrava. Now the Calatrava itself has been out for it's a huge history behind the Calatrava, but the pilot Calatrava has not. So let's start with that. The pilot Calatrava, which you can tell it's a pilot Calatrava because it has these interesting knobs on the right hand side. They also make a pilot travel time with knobs on the left hand side, which I'll get to when I tell you about where this watch stands in the lineup. But basically, the Calatrava that has these knobs also means that it has this complications, which puts it in the category of the complications. Now, the first Calatrava Pilot came out in roughly 2015. It was a 5524G or 5524R and a G, which is a pilot travel time, but it has the knobs on the left-hand side and does not have a chronograph. Okay, so that is a little bit about the history of the pilot travel time. Now, let me tell you about where this watch stands in the lineup of other similar Calatravas or other similar pilot travel times. They make 4 different Calatrava pilot travel times. The first 2, as I mentioned, white gold and rose gold, have the knobs on the left-hand side and were created in 2015. And most recently, approximately 2023, I believe, or 22, Patek came up with a Calatrava pilot time that has knobs on the right-hand side, and that's because it has a chronograph. And it still has the travel time, but you no longer activated the complication using the knobs on the right-hand side. You actually activate the knobs through the pushers. Okay, so that's where it stands now, and all the pilot travel time chronographs are going to be in white gold. Before they were in rose gold and they were in white gold. Now they're just in white gold. And they have this either green dial or blue dial. Okay, so now you have an idea of where this watch stands in the lineup. Let's move on to the case itself. Now the case itself is going to remain at 42 millimeters. The older version, or the less complicated version of this, also has a diameter of 42 millimeters, which actually makes it one of the largest, if not actually, I believe the largest complication that Patek makes. When I say complications, that's one of their collections. They make grand complications, Calatrava, Nautilus, so on. So at 42 millimeters, if you like larger watches, this is definitely one that you should consider. Okay, and if you look at, let's turn it on its side a bit and look at the height. Now the height is 13 millimeters, which is a little bit thicker than the predecessor, which is a 5524, which does not have a chronograph, and that's to be expected because this one has an extra complication of being a chronograph, right? So naturally, the height would be a little bit bigger, as you could imagine. Okay, now let's move on to, and I guess since we're talking about the case, let's delve into this a little bit. Look at the nice work on this case. I mean, it's kind of to be expected for the price point of this watch, but what are some of the nice things I can point out? The lugs are done very nicely. They are a little bit curved so that the watch sits a little bit more comfortable on the wrist, and somewhat curved, not a lot curved, but a little bit. And the movement in the back, it now is much bigger movement and fills the space on this case. I guess I should talk about that when we get to the movement, but just to talk about the case itself. And if you also look at the way the pushers are integrated into the side of the case. I think Patek did a really nice job here. Not a super fancy case, not like it's super intricate or anything, but not every watch has to be super intricate. This one happens to just be good looking, but not intricate, which is not a bad thing. Okay, now let's move on to the dial. As I told you earlier, the dial, they make the dial in either dark green or dark blue. So that's up to you, whichever you choose. They're both about the same price when it comes to market price. And actually, by the way, these watches are selling under retail, which is a good thing. So at least on jazztime.com, they're selling under retail. So if you want to buy this watch, you simply click on the link in the description below to buy it. Now let's talk about the dial here. The dial is a lacquered khaki green. And what does that mean? Well, there's generally two ways to make a dial. You can either lacquer it or you could enamel it. Enamel it involves baking it in using high temperature, but that process is much more expensive, and it's a less common usage or way to make a dial. The more common is lacquered, which is basically painting the dial, and it's painted on here in this khaki green. As I said, they also make it in a blue. Okay, now the gold applied hour markers are that means that the hour markers, the edges of them are in gold, white gold that is, to match the rest of the case, but the numbers themselves are also going to be luminescent, which is a nice thing because it allows you to read this watch very easily at nighttime. Okay, so that is the dial. Now let's move on to actually, since we're talking about the dial, we probably should talk about the complication. Now, the chronograph is on the right-hand side. You start and stop it using the pushers in the upper right-hand corner at the 2 o'clock and the 4 o'clock. Start, stop at 2 and reset at 4. That's pretty typical of chronograph. And you can see that the chronograph counter is at the very bottom here. As the second hand goes around, then the 60-minute counter at the bottom begins to move over 1 tick per minute, which is also typical. They do this in their other complications as well. Now, at the 12 o'clock, what you have is the date, which is 1 through 31, and as you can imagine, that goes around 31 days. Now, for the time zone, you have the local time, which is, so the big hands, the ones that have luminescent on them, are connected with local time. So that's your time here, let's say, for example, in USA. And the shadow hand is the time you might have, like, for example, in Europe, and that corresponds to home. Now, anytime the hour hand passes 6 o'clock, either PM or AM, the day-night indicator will adjust itself as such. So, for example, at 6 PM local time, the white and blue dot will turn blue or dark at night and white during the daytime. And same thing happens for the home. Okay, all right, so now let's move on to the movement here. I was just telling you earlier, the movement they've done a nice job making the movement quite large here, and also making it fill the back. I believe the before was a little bit smaller. The movement diameter now is 31 millimeters. I'm going to check to see what it was before, and I believe it was quite a bit smaller. Oh, actually, it's about also 31 millimeters. Okay, so they did a good job before. They're still doing a great job on it in terms of the movement size, letting it fill the case back properly. But of course, it's thicker. It has more parts. In fact, this one has 370 parts, and which is the reason why it's thicker, as you can imagine, because it has more complications to fill. Okay, not a whole lot to say other than to say it's a very beautiful movement. The movement number is CH28520CFUS. Okay, now the strap, let's talk about the strap briefly. It's not a whole lot to say but I can say that I do like that they made the strap integrated into the rest of the watch. The watch itself is a calfskin olive green with a vintage finish, and it has a clevis prong buckle, which basically means it has a pin buckle here, which is very typical of their complications. Nothing that special, but it's very classic. It's also a very beautiful way to display the watch, and I like it on this leather. It makes the watch very casual. Okay, time to give you my thoughts. Now I'm 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, and I have a 7.5 inch wrist. Now when I try this watch on me, 42 millimeter really, if you ask me, is her perfect size. Now some of their complications are really just too small for a man that has a wrist size like mine, which is actually average wrist size. I don't really like under 40 millimeter watches because they just really look too small on me. And for size is very important when it comes to choosing a watch. You want to choose a watch that is the right size for you. And I believe that this watch at 42 millimeters is a great size. Okay, so there you have it. A perfect size, and also the complication. Now, this is not a watch that you're going to wear that's going to, really shock people in the sense that it's like a bling bling watch. No, this is not that kind of watch. It's a much more subtle, elegant watch that, as you can see, Patek did it in white gold, and I think they did it on purpose because it's just a very casual watch, but it's casual, subtle elegance. I kind of think it's similar to like Brunello Cucinelli clothing, where it's ultra expensive, ultra nice, but it's under the radar. And that's what this watch kind of does. It's not something that's going to scream, oh, here, I have money. It's a very casual, beautiful watch. Okay, so look, if you'd like to buy it, please click on the link in the description below to buy it at jazzdime.com.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazzdime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model, and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.